Hey everyone, it has been a while since I've posted anything, and I thought I might owe a little explanation to that. It has been this crazy busy season. Some of you may know I am not a full-time YouTuber. You can probably tell by the production quality level of our videos, but all that to say, I work multiple jobs. I work full-time for the Navy as a civilian, and I'm a pastor. I'm also a musician and an author. I do many things. So this season has just been crazy busy, and while I do have tons and tons of projects filmed, I have not had the opportunity to edit most of these. So I've got a lot of product reviews that we've been testing out. Looking forward to releasing those. And speaking of which, let's get to that, shall we? Yeah. Hey all, welcome back to the channel. Brendan here, aka Cliff Jumper, and a few months ago, well probably more than a few months, like a year ago, I installed one of these smart screens in my R32, and I love it. It has been super helpful. It's a great heads-up display. It works really well with my iPhone, doing Waze mostly for my navigation, controlling all sorts of stuff. And it is also a drive cam, so I have a record if anybody does something stupid in front of me, which is awesome. One of the things I did not do when I installed it is actually wire it to switch power. So all this time I've been manually turning it off and on, and it's wired very messily with the wire just kind of running down into my power bar there. So today I'm going to show you how to wire it to switched power so that if you have a device like this, it'll just turn off and on with your ignition. It's not hard. So in a Mark IV, underneath the driver's side panel, you've got access to the relay box. You do have to remove both of these plastic panels here. They just pop off. You might have a torque screw that is holding it down in the middle and on each side here. I removed mine many years ago, so it's just friction held in by these clips that I'll show you, but it'll just pull out, and then there will be a few, get under here, there are going to be a few torques, one here and one there, that will remove this bottom plastic panel. That comes out of the way, and then there is the 75X terminal, which is all the way back in here, and I'll show you that. That is what we're going to wire to. So if you have not taken apart your Mark IV interior before, it's not hard. You can just pull this panel out of the way relatively easily by removing the sort of hook your fingers in here, and this pops out, and look, this just like popped out of the way. There are these friction clips that are supposed to hold it in place. Looks like one of my friction clips has completely broken. Nope, two have completely broken. Yeah, looks like I'm gonna be doing a little repair or buying a replacement part here because that's trashed. And then this one, you can see I have modified. I put a washer here that will hold the panel in place and keep it from falling out, so I'm gonna have to remove that, and then this will come out of the way. We are gonna have to remove this panel here just to be able to pass the wiring through, just to make it easier on us, get a little access, stick our hands back up inside here. I am also going to do a permanent modification to one of the buttons here. Now, this is going to be a modification with a Dremel where I trim off just the little corner of this button. That's going to allow me to run this cable right there through here. So the cable's going to come down and go boop inside the dash, and then it'll pass through the rest of the way. It is a permanent modification. You do not have to do this, but it does make it for a pretty clean install, and it does not permanently modify the dash, which on an R32 is not replaceable. It doesn't. You can do the same thing by modifying the bezel of this actual HVAC bezel, but then that gets into the structure for your vents, and if you like them to actually work, which I do, then you probably don't want to mess with that. But these little heater control buttons are replaceable. They're common. You can get them. They're out of any Mark IV. And so I don't mind modifying this to do what I want it to do. I'm going to do the same thing over here with my, this is a while you're in there job. I've got this power phone holder, and I'm going to do the same modification up in the corner so that I can run my power cable through the dash as well for that, so that we don't have these cables just hanging out, and that'll clean up this whole thing quite a bit. Tools you are going to need. Flashlight, see through the dash underneath there. You're going to need a 10mm socket with a small extension just to make things easier for yourself. You will need some Torx bits. I don't remember exactly which size that we're dealing with, but if you've got a few of them, one of them will work. A screwdriver to work with the Torx bits. I do use a little drill to just make it a little quicker on removal. And you're going to want one of these extension tools that have the little grabby thing on the end, just to help get things through the dash in some of these spots. One other tool you will need is a set of needle nose pliers, and that is to remove these clips from where they like to stay captive in your dashboard. So you're just going to want to pull that out, hold on to it. That is what holds your dash in place. There's going to be a couple more of them over here. There are a few different solutions to power underneath the dash. This is my not so elegant but really functional solution. I have taken one of these multiple power output cigarette lighter adapter things, and this is one of the higher output ones. So this one has two USB-C. One is a high amperage and one is just a regular amperage. I'm going to be using both of those. The higher amperage one will power my smart screen. The lower amperage one will power my smartphone. And it is wired. I soldered on wires to the lead. So on the side of your cigarette lighter adapter, you've got your ground, and then the tip is your positive 12-volt power. So I have run my ground out, and I have just a loop connector to it, and I've done another slightly larger loop for the power as well. They are going to connect to a ground point and the 75X spot under the dash. Now I'm going to go underneath here and remove that bottom tray, and I'm going to remove those 3 Torx screws. Those 3 ones out of the way, this bottom plastic cover can come sliding out. And now we're going to need to take off this. So there's a couple of screws hidden. One up behind here, one up there, this one here, that one there, that one there, that one there. Now these screws for this metal cover, the ones here and on the bottom have the same thread pitch. These ones on the outer sides have a different thread pitch, so make sure you keep those ones separate. So when you remove this, just swing the bottom out and it should just come straight out. So put my flashlight down here so we can see what we're doing. So what we're looking for down here, back here in this corner, you see this yellow terminal. That is the 75X terminal. You can also see it from up inside here. That is the one. It's a 10 millimeter. So we're gonna unbolt that, and that will be where our power is going. And then we're gonna use this convenient Torx bolt right here that works really great for a ground. So we'll just stick our ground wire through right here. Just pass this through. We can actually pass it right through here as well, but it can come up and through, just like this other one. Put the little loop on it. Dunzo. Cool. And then the ground, left myself a lot of room on here so we can stick it through. I'm just popping it through right here. This is an easy spot, and I will grab my screwdriver with the Torx, unscrew it, stick this on there, and tighten it down. Ground, power connected. This is just kind of hanging out under here, and that's fine. I'm not overly concerned about it. It can just chill right above the OBD2 connector. It's not going to do anything. Or I could, if I wanted to get really crazy, I could stick it up here above the relays so that it's not going to cause any interference issues with my OBD connector. Not that I think that would be an issue, but I can just tuck it up there. Now what I'm going to do is these USB cables that I have got it powered with, I'm just going to run this through the dash to over here. And in order to do that, I'm going to pop this button out of place. You can probably do it with your fingernails if you've got strong fingernails, or you could use a plastic spudger tool, very gently pressing in your button here, leveraging underneath, and then it'll come out. I am going to disconnect it because I'm going to modify this as well as we run the cable through, and I'm going to do the same thing with that one for this power connector as well. There we go. Okay, so these should wiggle off like so. All right, now leave that hanging, and I'm going to modify the corner of this with a drill or a Dremel, and I'm just going to come right down the corner there. See, like there's just enough space where if I remove that, that'll give me pass through for the cable right there in that corner. And I will open it up on this end as well, just on the interior, and that'll give me what I want for pass through for that to duck through there. I'll do the same thing over on the other side. Now I'm using just a regular drill bit on my Dremel to clear what I want to clear here. Nothing special. You could actually use a drill. So all I did was just cleared right up there in the corner, and I will I did the same thing over here. So now when I modify the buttons, I will need to clean this up a little bit, get rid of all the Dremel dust, but that gives me enough room for the cable to pass through. Easy peasy. Pretty much the same thing with the buttons. So right in the corner, See how we just nibbled that right there in the corner? And that's going to give us enough room to pass our cable through. Probably do just, see, if I'm comparing the front angle, I want it to be straight. So I'm going to nibble just a little bit more off of there. Go. That one is done also. And now we're going to thread our cable through the dash to where we want it to be. And that's where the grabby tool can come in handy. So I'm going to stick it through from this end, grab it from underneath, and pull it through. Right? It's going to pop out somewhere down inside there. And the grabby tool can pull it where I need it to be. There is enough room to get your hand kind of up in there, but the grabby tool just makes it a little bit easier to get up in there. Well, while I've been working on this, I have lost the sunlight, so I apologize for the harsh light here, but here's what it looks like. I did trim this side a little bit more because I have not only the power cable, but the backup cam cable. Over on this side, it's just the one cable, so it's just a neat little in the dash right there. Ignore this because I'm actually doing another project I'll tell you about later. I'm wiring Bluetooth into my factory navigation. We'll come back on that another time, but in the meantime, this is now wired and functional, so when I turn on the key, the smart screen comes on. And I just need to finish putting all this back together, and I'll be done in about 5 minutes.
2 hours later.
All right, so I decided to start in the morning again after I lost all my light and show you the final result here. So here we do. We have our clean install setup. Got the smart screen. By the way, if you are using one of the Seicane units, you can use a blow dryer or a heat gun to slightly bend the foot of this unit so that it matches your dash and adheres without actually having to use screws or something. But now I've got my cables for power and the reverse camera just going right down there into the dash behind my heater. And over here I've got my powered phone mount, and that's also just tucked right back there. So nice clean install. And my phone will quite happily live there. And now if I start up the car, there we go. Smart screen starts up with the car. No more manually turning it off. No more manually turning it off and on. And as it fires up, it should just automatically connect to turn that down. Yeah, here's my factory navigation, which I will be doing a Bluetooth conversion on. I'm working on that. But we've got our smart screen now, and here we go. It is all set. So everything over here is back together, good to go. If you have done one of these smart screen installs and you just get your cables lazily hanging all over the place, I hope this inspires you to go do a cleaner install and get your cables out of the way nicely tucked so they're not everywhere here. Let me know what project you are working on in the comments, what car you might stick one of these smart screens in. I will leave a link to the smart screen in the description if you don't already have one, and I will see you next time. Make sure you hit like, subscribe. I'm a one-man person. This is not a full-time YouTube gig for me. I work, and this is just to help you out, so help me out, right? Just one like, subscribe. That's all I ask. Thank you. God bless. Bye-bye.
And on that terrible disappointment, it's time to say goodbye. We'll be back.